Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a 5-Minute Friday on Hunky Vape.
Hey there, Hunky Vape fans. I'm on the road today, but this will be your report, your 5-Minute Friday for October 2nd, 2020. Let's jump right down into the news. All right, first article for today, published in Yahoo Finance, was actually authored by the Canadian Vaping Association, titled Restrictive Vape Regulation is the Underlying Cause of EVALI. Recent study by Yale School of Public Health titled Rates of E-Cigarette Marijuana Use Not Associated with Larger Outbreaks of Vaping-Related Lung Injuries found higher levels of e-cigarette marijuana use did not result in more cases of EVALI. The Canadian Vaping Association agrees with researchers that this study should serve as a warning to anti-vape proponents that restrictive vape regulations such as flavor bans are a danger to public health. The study found that higher rates of e-cigarette marijuana use resulted in fewer EVALI cases per capita, whereas areas with restricted access had a greater number of cases. Furthermore, demonstrating that, as the Canadian Vaping Association has expressed on numerous occasions, prohibition does not work. This is the same fiddle being harped on and on again, and regulators just don't seem to get it. That, or maybe the lobbyists keep shoving too much money into their pockets. Regulators must take note. Flavor bans and excessive taxation create a breeding ground for unregulated products. These products adhere to no quality control standards or ingredient regulations. Moreover, their sales are not subject to inspection by tobacco enforcement or age restriction. Restrictive legislation not only harms ex-smokers by forcing them back to traditional tobacco because they can't afford to buy the vapes, it often props up a black market, creating public health hazards, such as what happened with the EVALI outbreak. Tainted black market THC carts, because they were not legally available, fostered the dissemination of these products, which caused this massive outbreak, and people lost their lives. However, Nova Scotia did not learn this lesson when they instituted a 50-cent per milliliter tax, an additional 20% tax on the retail value of all vaping devices and hardware. This tax disproportionately impacts adult ex-smokers who use open system refillable vaping systems, open refillable tanks. It's crazy. But these regulators, they just keep shoving these taxes down our throat without regard for what the consequences are going to be or how many lives are going to be lost. All right, go to the next one. FactAsia.org published an article titled E-Cigarette Use is Strongly Associated with Smoking Cessation in the European Union. Something we already know. Unsurprisingly, in agreement with other studies, we found a strong association between current daily e-cigarette use and being a former rather than a current smoker. Specifically, this was published by Dr. Konstantinos Farsalinos. My apologies on that pronunciation. Says specifically, we found that daily e-cigarette use was associated with a 5-fold higher odd of quitting smoking in 2015 and 2017, and a 3-fold higher odd of having quit smoking in 2012 to 2015. Hence the argument that I keep bringing up. These products, every time they come out with a new version of a product, it gets better. It gets more flavorful. I had a conversation with somebody the other day in a live chat session where we were talking about, man, I wish I would have found some of these products 10 years ago because I would have quit 10 years ago. And he reminded me of the fact that 10 years ago, these products were in their infancy. And some of these products, while they worked, do not produce the flavor that these new products that we have out on the marketplace today are capable of giving you. I know for a fact, looking at my old Atlantis Aspire kit, it doesn't produce nearly as much flavor as my new Geek Vape tank does. And I know for a fact, looking at the Smock products, you know, they're the ones that crank out line after line after line after line after line. But you know what? Every time they do, it's just a little bit better than the last one they put out. The TFV9 tank is twice as good as the TFV8 tanks were. And the amount of content it does, the right combination of airflow, the flavor right off the bat is exactly where it needs to be. I remember when I put my first TFV8 coil into a tank and I used it, and I'm like, well, this is better than the Sigelli MS1 that I have, but not by much. So, enough of me harping. Let's jump on to the next one. This one published in Vape Mag. This is Indonesia. All right. So if you follow the link that I post below, you're gonna need to have Google Translate it for you. However, it's a worthy article to read. In the UK and Japan, alternative tobacco products have succeeded in reducing smoking rates. Former World Health Organization Director of Policy Research and Cooperation, Professor Tiki Pagestu, said the use of alternative tobacco products in the UK and Japan had encouraged smokers to quit. I know, surprisingly. Somebody who worked at the World Health Organization actually talking positively about vaping. Notice he's a former director of policy. So he doesn't agree with the current agenda that's being pushed. But about 20,000 smokers in the UK quit every single year. The rates have dropped from 14.4% in 2018 to 14.1%, or the equivalent of 6.9 million smokers in 2019. You know, when you look at these percentages, it doesn't mean what you think it means sometimes. To drop from 14.4 to 14.1 is a change of 0.3. However, that's the equivalent of 6.9 million lives. Meanwhile, based on a survey by the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, the number of smokers, men, fell below 30% for the first time to 28.8% in 2019. The number of female smokers decreased by 0.07% to 8.8% in 2019. We have seen a dramatic and historical decline in cigarette sales after alternative tobacco products were introduced in various countries. The proof is the UK, where more and more smokers are quitting smoking every single year, said Tiki, when he was a speaker at the Global Tobacco Nicotine Forum 2020, citing a press release obtained by Vape Mag's Indonesia. Using alternative products to quit smoking were at least twice as likely to be successful than using other nicotine replacement products. So this is an important advance in evidence-based science. To encourage other countries to follow in the footsteps of Britain and Japan, Tiki said there was a need for locally based research on alternative tobacco products. The article continues on and on about him pushing for his country to do what needs to be done so that they can also adopt the same innovative product design and a way for people to quit smoking. As a country open to innovation and technology, Indonesia should not deny the potential benefits presented by alternative tobacco products. Moreover, the number of Indonesian smokers has reached 65 million people. Can you imagine what vaping would do for the Indonesian people? This is Stoptober. Officially, the first weekend in October begins Public Health England's initiative called Stoptober. It's back for 2020 with a primary aim of encouraging the nation's smokers to make a quit attempt for the month of October and beyond. As with previous Stoptober campaigns, this year's campaign is founded on the evidence that if a smoker can quit for 28 days, they are 5 times more likely to quit for life. Our last article, published in Vape Around magazine. Stoptober. Ex-chain smoker saved NHS £500,000 by donating his e-cigarette. Richard Pruin, 48, a former 50-day smoker, 50 cigarettes a day smoker. Do the math. It's almost 2.5 packs a day. Approaches smokers to talk to them about quitting smoking and switching to e-cigarettes. He explained ahead of this year's launch of Stoptober. If they show an interest, he offers them one of his old devices. Richard currently uses the Vape Gen S and claims he has helped 25 people quit by giving them his old devices. The average smoker costs society roughly £1,900 per year, which means he has potentially helped to save £475,000. He said, "I've tried to do my part. I believe supporting vaping is a net gain for public health. I'm glad to have helped people save their lives." Richard smoked cigarettes for nearly 30 years before the smoking ban forced him to smoke in his work van. Notice, it didn't stop him from smoking just because they banned it. It just relegated him to smoke in his van. He says without a vape, he would certainly revert back to smoking. Although he never planned to quit cigarettes initially, he found that he had cut down to just 5 cigarettes a day. He has now reduced his nicotine intake from 18 milligram to 3 milligram using his device only when he wants a cigarette, which is about twice a week. Richard believes that the negative press around e-cigarettes is putting smokers off switching to electronic cigarettes. However, his late father's experience showed him just how harmful continuing to smoke can be. He says, "My father died of cancer. He was a fireman, so there was an exposure to smoke, but he smoked for most of his life, so cigarettes probably had a lot to do with it. Had a lot to do with him getting cancer. Had a lot to do with him dying at the age of 70. Since quitting smoking and switching to e-cigarettes, Richard said that he can taste food again. He can enjoy the smell of freshly cut grass. Meanwhile, his lungs have no indication that he used to be a smoker. Richard's doctor told him. Switching has also saved the NHS further money as Richard no longer requires a flu jab because he's no longer considered asthmatic. Vaping seems to have had no effect on my lung capacity. Because of my asthma, my chest muscles are more developed, and because I don't suffer anymore, I'm now better off than normal. I used to use an inhaler every day, and I haven't had an asthma attack since 2009. So, if you're interested in Stoptober, there's a link below in the description. And if you know a smoker who's interested in quitting, and you got an old device laying around, talk to them about the benefits of vaping. Talk to them how they can potentially save their life by getting rid of deadly combustible cigarettes and picking up a vape. One flavorful vape is all it takes for some people. For other people, it's a struggle. But the end result is the same. A dramatic improvement in your health, the ability to taste things you haven't tasted in years, and the most important effect is you could potentially save somebody's life. That's it for today, October 2nd, 2020. Stoptober begins today. You all have a great weekend. Peace, love, and a hunky vape is all you need to stay smoke-free.